Hey, what's up? Today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to scope out the new Emberthrone music videos project file and open that up and explore kind of some of the basics on editing and just take a look at the timeline so you guys can see what goes into it. Let's scope that out. Okay, so this is project file. I'm sure this is Adobe Premiere. I'm sure people have used it or seen it. The basic thing is this line divides the difference between audio tracks and video tracks. I'm in the edit workspace, which is where I do 99% of the work. We have the song files here. There's a couple because we had different mixes of the song. We had like a rough mix that we used for playback, and then the final. And we do have a few sound effects of like footsteps and things over here. But I'm going to move this down. And then you can see this whole pancake layers of actual song performance. And then if we zoom out, you can see over here different stuff. And this is random footage and or kind of like story footage. So when I'm looking at this is like non-band performance footage. So we filmed some like suspicious shots. So this is kind of like the story footage. So the band members are like looking suspicious. So he's looking around, and it's not really like a version of the song that we're going to use for the band footage. You can also see that here where there's, Monty tied up in a chair, and then B-roll of the building. And so if I zoom out a lot, you can see how much stuff we have on the timeline. And this is actual band track stuff. I brought another version in because I was looking for a clip and I wasn't sure if I lost it. Okay, but here we are. This is our timeline. This is where the song is. You can see I marked in and out points for the song. And what we'll do is I want to show you guys kind of how I approach editing a music video. So I'm going to open a new sequence. So we go File, New, and we say Sequence. And I'm just going to hit OK because it doesn't matter. And we'll call the sequence name Video. Great. Done. Cool. And then I have some band shots ready. So I'm just going to drop one clip in, and then Adobe will say, do you want to change the sequence settings? And I'm going to say, yeah. And so what that does is that makes the sequence settings match. So now it's 4K, has a basic stuff that matches the video file that we threw in there, which is great. So I'm going to hit cancel, and now I'm going to go drag on drop all my footage in. And Adobe's going to take a second. I'm like, okay, cool. So we have video. This is rough audio of the song. And then, I filmed some winter snow stuff and forgot to clear it off the card before we filmed this music video. So that's why you see the random snowy shots. Okay, but that's not important. So one of the first things that I do when I go load a music video is I throw some rough color on there. And so what I do is if you go to your project file, and hit your clip window, the project file over here, you right click and you can say new item and new adjustment layer. So we hit OK because this is the right settings. It knows this matches the sequence that we're in. So we hit OK. Drag that adjustment layer on top of your footage, and then I expand it so it just kind of goes over everything. And we shot this music video with Blackmagic Pocket 4K cameras. And so what I'm going to do just to get started is we're going to grab the Lumetri effect. So we click on the effect window over here and type in Lumetri. Drag and drop that onto the adjustment layer. And then I'm going to hit the basic correction. Change the input LUT. I have the new computer and I haven't loaded it to my defaults here, but you can load it to default, so it's really easy to find. But I'm going to click Browse. And then it opened up to my LUTs. In this case, I really like the Buttery LUTs Rec 709, and they have this +2 contrast. And I'm gonna hit OK. And the +2 contrast is nice because with Blackmagic Pocket's new Gen 5 color science, it's a lot more flat than it used to be. So the +2 contrast really helps make it pop a little bit more. And I still find myself adding contrast in some shots, depending how bright it was. But yeah, so if we just kind of click through, I'm gonna mute the audio here for a second. We just kind of scrub through. Things look pretty good. A lot of times you end up on music videos, you end up moving so fast that some shots are too dark or too bright. Like this one's a little washed out to me. So I'm just going to drag Lumetri, and what I typically do is I do rough color to start, and then I go look at footage to see how bad stuff is or how good. And so if there's a shot that looks bad, I try to adjust the color. What I found was if I don't fix the color at a high level right away, I end up avoiding those clips. And then later on, when you actually go back and like, kind of fix the color, you could make a lot of this stuff work a lot better. But if you don't adjust the color, you tend not to use it. And so I take a minute up front to kind of fix the clips and then call it good. And so what I typically do is, you have a couple things here in Lumetri, but I just go hit the color wheels, and then I will just drop the shadows in this case because it's kind of washed out. And, it's not perfect, but it's definitely a little bit better. Yeah, and we'll just kind of scrub through some of the other shots. Yeah, like this one's really bright, at least here at the start of it. So hit the color wheel, and in this case, maybe I'll drop the midtones, and that looks better. Maybe hit the shadows a little bit, and that's way better to my eyes. I know it gets too dark over here, but whatever. That's just an example. So the way I do music videos is I stack the songs. So I'm going to take the audio file over here, and we're going to take a peek at it. If you look at the start, there's these 8 counts of these little blips. And that serves 2 purposes. One, it lets the band know when to come in and start the song. The other thing is when you have this on playback and the camera is capturing the audio, you get these little beeps at the beginning, and that way you know how to line the song up properly later. It's hugely important. So we're going to grab one of the tracks. We'll grab this one, bring it over, zoom in, take a peek, and now you can see the WAV files, and we just line this up. And if I zoom into frame by frame, I just like to make sure that the peaks match. And occasionally you see clips like over here where this one kind of in the middle. It's fine. It's not going to make much of a difference, especially if the rest of them are lined up pretty good. You just really want both clips to be pretty similar. So if I hit play, it looks good. The drums match. That's awesome. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click into my track area and say add tracks. And I'm going to add tracks after 2, and we're going to say let's add 6 tracks right now. Hit OK, and then it just bumped everything up. And now I can drag some other clips in here into my timeline, or into the timeline that I'm using. So I have a shot of the full band. We'll bring this one over. And so I don't care about the audio, like the camera audio on the tracks once they're lined up. So I just step over it, and that way the audio, you can drag it down, and you only need the 2 audio tracks there. I don't need, I can spend more time on have more videos displayed at once. So it looks like this is lined up pretty good. And again, having that 8 count at the beginning makes a huge difference. Okay, we'll grab this clip, put that over there. Line it up. Okay, this is one where it might look weird, but because it starts during the same frame, that looks like that's pretty good. And then I'll just take a peek later over here. Ooh, see, now that one's off. And take a peek here at the start of the song. And okay, I should move it over one more. Cool. That looks pretty good. All right, and then you can see over here we have some takes where the audio doesn't quite go as cuts out halfway through, and this is slow-mo. And the way you handle slow-mo clips, I know we filmed this at 60 frames a second, so I'm gonna right-click on the file here and say unlink, and unlinking detaches the video and audio so you can treat them separate. So in this case, what we're gonna do is we're gonna right-click on the video clip, click on speed and duration, and change the speed from 100% to 250, and hit OK. And now I cut this extra piece of the audio file, delete it, highlight both the clips, right click on them, and say link. And so what that did is that put the slow-mo video to normal time, and it makes it more usable on a normal time frame. So I can throw it on here, everything will match, and then if I want a shot that's slow-mo, I'll show you how to handle that. So now we line it up. Okay, cool. So next thing that we'll do, so let's just assume it's done. I have 4 tracks, they're all lined up. This is great. This is all I'm going to use. This V1 here highlighted means that if you copy and paste things go on that track. And I don't want to erase stuff that we have here. So I'm going to unselect that, and then we're going to click on V7. And now if I copy and paste things, it'll put it on V7. And so let's just try this clip. I'm going to trim it to right here. Okay, that's not bad. Let's hide that so now we can see the next thing underneath. Not bad for a second. And no. No, okay, cool. So grab this, we'll back this first clip, grab it, oops, turn it back on. And we'll cut there. Oops, and paste. And then we'll go to this clip. Cut there. And paste. And now you can see how we start building. Okay, so if we review. Cool, that's pretty good. We go back to our slow-mo clip. So it's a little shaky, camera comes in, whatever. So we're gonna clip this. We're gonna copy that. Zoom in, paste. All right, and so strikes the drum, and then we go to slow-mo. So we'll just, he hits, and now we click speed, put this back to 100%, and now the rest of this clip will be slow-mo. So it goes from fast to slow. Okay, and that looks a little weird. I wouldn't really do that if that were real, but you know, we're just kind of playing around right now, showing how this works. Okay, so the reason that I paste stuff up a couple tracks above the rest of the band footage is so you can hide the clip under the main band timeline. So let's say if I hated this clip, which I do, what I do is I just drag it down, and then I can go take a peek and see what else is there. And that's mostly pretty good. That's got a really good start to it. And then it starts shaking, so we'll just grab that small little section. Okay, and paste that in. That's better. Now we go back to here. No. Then we go here. Yeah, it's not gonna work. Anyway, so that's what you can see. And the reason I don't like to delete that stuff is sometimes what I found is no matter how good you shoot everything, no matter how good the band is, there's always a spot or two in the video where everything just sucks. There's too much camera shake, as you saw from some of those clips there. It shakes when you first, especially when you first get started, things are a little shaky. But there's always a part or two in the song where, like, you know, maybe the stars didn't align for whatever reason, and so, you know, a lot of times the first clip that you grab is the best one, even if you don't like it. You can easily go back to it. Or if you're trying to figure out, like, what's going on, it's just nice to have those for reference. So I drag this below, and that way I can just easily kind of go back and forth without having to do V1 or V2 versions of the video. That gets really annoying because I work on quite a few at once, so I can't do that. Yeah, so we have the band footage, which I call performance footage a lot, either one of those terms. And then a lot of times, if the song's over 3 minutes, I like to recommend that we have some sort of story footage. And I say story footage, and it's just something that's not the band shots. It could be just B-roll, and when I say B-roll, what I mean is, like, you know, detailed shots of the environment. So in this case, we're in a creepy basement, and there's like paint peeling off of stuff. So you're gonna see, we got to get shots of those things, so you can throw them in there, and you can just see how creepy everything looks. Cool. All right, now let's pop back into the video. All right, and you can see the timeline here. And so we have one track here, and we scroll up, and we keep going, and we end up with 24 tracks of band performance, which for music video, honestly, that's about average. Maybe a little bit on the lower side. A lot of times we'll do more, but a lot of times we'll also have a lot of individual shots. In this music video, when Monty and I were talking, and I was talking to the rest of the guys too, what they wanted something where the camera is just moving constantly a lot. But it's not shaky cam, it's not action cam status. It's rotating moves and or stationary, but not shaky cam. And I was like, okay, cool, we can do that. And so we used one camera had a DJI Ronin S2, and then I was handheld on the other camera. And that way I got the best of both worlds. And I was just, moving slowly and stepping carefully. So we got band shots, and then we have our storyline stuff. So the main story, the A story, is Monty's in a chair beating himself up. And that's what the song is called, A Bitter Path. That's what the lyrics are about. It's about being your own worst enemy. And then we also have some creepy shots of the band members doing weird stuff. The band is calling them like their doppelgangers. And then we have B-roll. So this is the B-roll shots I was talking about. Super rad. So those are the main things. And if you look at the timeline here, so we can see my adjustment layer that has the main color across the top. And then you can see some other small things over here. So this is the title. So we have the song title and their label. And then we have their logo here. And then these things that go across the bottom, what I did was line 26 is the band footage. And then you can see where I dragged the clips I didn't like down below. There's a few areas that we went through and re-edited things. But what we did for all the band footage was we added film grain. So there's 65 millimeter film grain from Cinecolor. I really like their film grain. They have everything from like 16 to like 65 millimeter or maybe even higher. But 65 looked good. It was nice. It didn't add too much. It was just the right amount. So if I hide it, I don't know if you can see a difference. Kind of brightened it up a little bit. And it's one of those things, if you zoom in or if you have it on a big screen, you'll notice it. It just makes it look slightly more organic, more filmic. But in this case, it just kind of helped fit the vibe of the band footage. We kind of wanted something a little bit dark. It was nothing too bright. Yeah, and then you can see over here, and the reason I didn't have the film grain on top of everything is I went a different route. So on the creepy footage, we have these dirt scratches. And it's just a movie file that if I play it, you can see the dirt and scratches there. So if I hide it, this is what it looks like. And it just helps add a little extra creepiness to it. And I did the same thing on the B-roll shots. And then what we did on the B-roll shots was I did a lot of frame skipping on the non-band footage stuff. So this is just me manually cutting and dropping a frame or two. And then I'd also either occasionally zoom in and rotate it, or sometimes drop the exposure. So I just hit the color wheels here and dropped it down. Like on this clip, there's nothing, no color. And so it goes from brighter to a little bit darker, and it just gives it that like hand cranked look and feel to it. And there's plugins that can do that, but I feel like a lot of times you see the same stuff, and at least for my eyes, some of them can look really good, but you see the same plugins all the time, and it just, I don't know, it looks repetitive. So I did it by hand, and it allowed me to also hit stuff on the beat and match the drums better, which I thought was pretty cool. Okay, and so for this shot, we reused the area where the band was playing. So we did two things. So the band's here, we used really flat lighting here, and what we did was we bounced the lights off the ceiling, and it kind of gave it like a top-down light, and it was kind of flat. But it allowed us to shoot various places around the band and not worry about getting lights in the shot. So that helped a lot. And then for the story footage, we had one, I can't remember what light it was. It was either Aperture or Godox, but we mounted it with on this pipe that was around the ceiling and just shot it down. We put cinefoil around it to get a harder line on the shadow. We could have done like a softbox with a grid or something, but the place is like really dirty, and so anytime you break something out, you get a chance to get really dirty. And then also, I think with the softbox that I had, it would have got too far down into the shot, and so we used cinefoil and a lot harsher lighting compared to earlier. And I'm pretty sure we put a sock on top of the light, so it wasn't quite hard. But the sock thing on top of the Bowens mount doesn't do a whole lot to like soften it. It does just enough, but yeah. So anyway. Top-down light here, there's one, and you can see a sheet of muslin on the right, so we got a little bit of bounce fill from this. Cool, more creepy shots. So there's a really weird elevator, so we put an Aperture MC light up here, and just did like kind of silhouette, so you can do just enough detail on his face that it's not just a shadow. And you can see that like dirt and scratches on it. And then we go back to band shots. And so the story progresses. And more B-roll, and you can see where I cut, and then yeah, this is all lumetri. And as we went, I was trying different approaches to change everything up. So like this stuff was just really dropping the exposure up and down a little bit and skipping some frames. And later on, you'll see some of the zooms and some rotations. It's interesting here. This is one clip, but I cut the punch in the middle. And so what that does is that just make the punch like look a little bit harder. I thought they did a great job selling it, but it's just one of those things where if you drop one frame right before the punch hits, it just seems like it speeds up, which is really cool. And like when you play through, like you can barely notice it, but it just helps add something. Yeah, and so I think here you can see a little bit of the rotation happening, and yeah, so you can see the rotations at -1, the scale's at 104 compared to this clip where it's at scale 100, rotation 0. All right, and then we hit our first After Effects clip. So if we look at this, there's 3 layers. We have the dirt and scratches on top. Then we have the After Effects clip, and then what I do when I have like edits and I'm not sure if things are final, what I do is I'll just grab a clip, hold Alt, bring it up, and now you copied it, and then you can right-click on that and say Replace with After Effects. I'll delete that. And if I hide this, you can see what the original clip looked like. So this is definitely zoomed in. So I'll put it out to where it was at normally and reset everything. So a lot of the other clips we were in hallways and it looked really cool. This one, the area is more open, but we love the bank vault behind. So we're in a bank vault in an old bank in downtown Portland. But we didn't like the open kind of plain walls back there. And so what I did was in After Effects, I just added fake walls and just kind of blurred stuff out. And yeah, and then we end up with this clip, which I think looks cool. And it kind of brings it in line with more of the other band creepy shots. If we take a peek here, you can see this is a light that we put there to make it more interesting. Kind of, shines on his hair just a little bit. You can see it over here. And this is one of those, it's kind of like an Aperture MC, but it was a Matt's light. I forget what brand it was, but they have magnets on them, which make them really handy to put in random places. So we use that light like all over the place, and we use the Aperture all over the place too. So there's a light here, and then we have one behind him in the sink too. And it just, makes the scene more interesting. A little bit less flat. You can see things a little bit better. It's kind of cool. And then over here on the right, we left this practical bulb on because it helped just give a little bit more depth over there. And I just want to say, like, this band is awesome. They are so tight. They are such brilliant musicians. They made this easy because they just were amazing to film and watch. Yeah, so this stuff was fun, like trying to figure out, like, okay, the story-wise, and then with our shooting schedule for the day, at what point does Monty get bloody makeup? We also had a fun cameo. Adam from Vitriol is playing Monty's body double, and he's beating him up, and then later on, Adam's in the chair while Monty's has his mask off and is beating himself up. We also have these shots of the band that's like they're starting to get suspicious, they're starting to get paranoid. Like we're just trying to amp up that sense of like self-doubt. And this is all practical blood. So Monty just had fake blood in his mouth and spit it out. Okay, and you can see this is After Effects clip. So this is what's fun about this one is if I hide the After Effects clip, you can see that we left a case. I think it was like White Claws or some sort of bubbly drink, and then there's a case of some of my audio gear. We weren't planning on shooting this angle, but the angle I had I didn't like, and I didn't want to waste a whole shot, so I walked around, and then I got this one. I was like, oh, this is cool. The band didn't like this stuff in the shot, and that's one of those things where I was watching the drum, so I didn't even notice it, but I definitely spent some time on this video pulling that stuff out. And this isn't perfect. They use their Adobe's autofill feature to remove it, but it's less distracting that I think it's fine and nobody's going to notice that. Yeah, and so this is Quentin here, just, you know, a little bit of frame skipping. But like, he just did some really creepy motion. There's a shot later where he's like kind of moving more and like walking backwards towards us. It's one of my favorite shots in the video. We also had a hazer, and so I bought a hazer, and this is the first video that I used the hazer. We just hazed the hell out of like all the rooms when we were doing the story footage. And then this is an aperture MC light over here, and you know, that haze just adds that glow to it. I just love it. It's so rad. Cool. And then we hit an area over here where basically we started amping up that weird paranoia. So what we wanted to do was, on some of the really big downbeat snare hits, or just some of the really big snare hits, we added a quick little clip. And this one's just 2 frames. Some of them we did 3 to 4 frames, and it just kind of depended. And what we wanted was something to like be like a little abrupt and a little bit jarring. If you have just like 1 frame, you know something's there, but it looks like a mistake. If it's 2 or 3, your brain can kind of register like what's going on. Also, that's a long clip. If you look, that's probably one of the longer clips in the video over here. But because the camera's moving, it's just really interesting. We see everyone in that one shot, and so it's just, this is what we meant by the camera moving. Like, that's one of those shots that really encompasses like what we were after. Yeah, and this is, you know, this one's at normal speed, and this shot's at slow-mo. I just clipped it and then dropped it from 250% to 100. Like I said, they're so good. Like, listen to that bass tone. That mix is incredible, and they're playing so awesome. Okay, we go back. You can see the light in the sync there. It just added like something interesting, makes it less flat. I thought it was pretty cool. Yeah, and that's, you know, a lot of manual clips here, and we're just trying to hit them on the beat. And so as it, you know, as the fill increases, you know, the clips, the speed of when we zoom in and rotate goes up with it. And now we have another shot that we pull the water bottles and stuff out of. And it's also interesting, so, you know, track 26 is the band footage, and then we have our VHS effect, or sorry, film grain effect, and then 30 is a lot of the, like, punching shots, and so we kind of layered stuff in, and then you can see I have a hidden track, so same thing where, you know, I like another track where I can, like, kind of just hide stuff and not have to, like, hunt for it. And so if I move this one up, okay, just another body shot. And so one of the things when you're editing this stuff is you want to make sure that things keep being interesting. So you don't want to show the same thing over and over. It gets repetitive and boring. So this clip is really cool. I think this is Martin's idea. Martin's a guitar player. What this is, it's the same shot that we had from like kind of before, and I'll show you what it looks like. It's this, but what we did was we zoomed in on the shadow, and that way it's more interesting. You know, he's getting punched, but it looks very different than how it did earlier. Yeah, that is just magical right there. That is so cool. It's like this. Some of these jumps are small and some of them are big. And it's just, his motion was really cool. You got a couple of drop frames in there, and it's like, oh man, that's just, I love it. And I keep saying we on the editing. What we did on this video that was fun was we did like 4 Zoom calls, and we spent like 4 to 5 hours each time on them, and just went through and like I think I did a decent chunk of the band footage without anybody's input, and then we went through with the guys on the call, and we went through and we swapped different clips, and then we went through and we started pacing everything. And you know, some bands you know, are okay with every music video, like you send them a draft and you're like, oh, good to go. And other bands are like, no, we want to get really in it. But worked with Monty before, and you know, they knew what they wanted, and so we had a lot of different kind of tracks with the creepy footage, and Monty beat himself up. So what we decided to do was just do Zoom calls and share the screen, and it actually worked out really well, and it made the editing process really smooth. Yeah, and I mentioned not repeating ourselves. There's a couple shots with blood, but it's so rad that, you know, gotta show a couple times. So what's interesting here, if we take off the After Effects clip, you can see that we added the, it's again the walls. But what's fun about this is all that motion, that's not After Effects. That was, we filmed it, I think, like either 12 or 20 frames per second. I'm pretty sure it's 12. And that we just had him move really creepy. He did a great job there, so it just looks really weird. And then if I zoom in, you can see that, we only had so much of that. It's funny because when we filmed it, it seemed like we spent a lot of time on it, but because it was like 12 frames per second, it goes really fast. And so what we did here is just like normal time, and then there's like some little zooms going on. But then it reversed the footage from earlier, so it's the same part, but it's just reversed, so it looks different. Pretty cool, neat little trick. And then I exported that, loaded it in to After Effects, and that way we had all those frame skips in there, and then I added the walls on it. And it worked great. Ouch, nut stomp. He almost nailed him there too, which is freaking hilarious. So good. That's just so good. Yeah, and there's another one of those, like, big snare hits. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 frames of Gabe there. So this one's fun because it's normal time, and then we hit slow-mo for the reveal. Yeah, and then you can see some of the other shots, like peek up here. Yeah, and we were playing with some other stuff, which is why some of these have like the 0% opacity. We didn't like them, so we were playing around with it, and I left them there in case we went back and forth. But you can see they end up here. And these ones were distracting, but having the 3 creepy shots of the band members here I thought was great. Especially like that one. Like, that is just such a cool look. But they're all awesome. It's just, I don't know, it was really fun. Yeah, and there's another one of those, and this one's what, 3 frames? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, super cool. And then, yeah, so then we did some death shots of the band members, so they sadly die. And that's the same thing, dirt and scratches with some frame skipping. And this was filmed, there's like a weird metal shelf here, so we put an aperture, MC light, and then haze the hell out of the room, and made him lay on the cold floor for, I don't know, 10-20 minutes while we filmed that. Random B-roll shot of something else that was in the death room. And then here we have, I think Quentin put on the shirt and then walks off, and poor Martin is dying. He had a shirt wound under his chest wound under his shirt, so we had to have him take his shirt off, and he had to lean up against the coldest thing in the building. And then we'll skip to kind of the end. So we got some more B-roll. And so this stuff's fun. So if I take the color off, you can see it's like very blue. So we found it was very distracting when you're watching the video, and all of a sudden everything's kind of like, orange-ish hues a little bit, maybe some browns, and then all of a sudden you have like a cool white or a cool blue, like very, very distracting. So we made kind of everything like have this yellow-ish pall look to it. So this is all slow-mo right here. And we're trying to figure out how to end it. And I'm going to scrolling through, scrubbing through some of the footage. We saw this clip. And we're like, everyone was like at the same time. I was like, wait, I think we can do that because it's kind of, And then we have it dip to white as to finish it out, and then I have a color matte down here that's white, and so it just goes just to pure white. And this was, I think this is a clip that Matt got, and I think, you know, he just hadn't stopped hitting record yet, so he was focused on something close, and then was moving the camera, and ended up being like the perfect ending shot, which is just awesome. Yeah, so that is the video, and that's everything that went into it. So, you know, at a high level, we have, you know, logos and stuff up here, then we have color, and then story footage across. You know, these tracks are film grain effect, and then we have band footage, and then there are all the source files down below stacked. And if I scroll out, you can see all the footage over here. And so what I was doing was grabbing the clips that we liked and moving them up, and that way we know, after we like kind of sifted through everything, what we liked. Okay, and that is it. If you have any questions or anything, let me know in the comments, and yeah, thanks so much for watching. Thanks.